Okay, welcome to part 4. This is the final video in which we will be inputting music. After this, we're going to switch over to doing things like effects and making it sound really polished. But we've got one really important instrumental part that we need to put in to get a finished version of Faded, and that is the drums. So that's what I'm going to guide you through in this episode here. Now, the good news is, while the drums are really important, they are incredibly simple. Really simple. You're not going to use any keyboard work for this at all, other than to check a few sounds. This can all be done without keyboard. It's all clicking things into the grid in the right place, so it's quite straightforward. The drums are basically divided into two different sections. The section between bar 17 and bar 21 I'm going to call the intro section, and then from 21 to 37, which is the number of bars that you should have so far, the drum does something very simple called a backbeat, and it just does that all the way through. So we're going to do those two different sections. But before we do anything else, we are going to need a drum track. So let's do that first. Go over here, insert MIDI track, and quite a nice peppermint green there it's gone for. I think I'll keep that. We're going to need a sound. Now, if you go over to the drum sound, you will see that even though we've only got the intro version of Ableton, we've got lots to choose from. Now, we need a very particular sound for one bit, which is the little drum fill before the chorus starts. And I've been through many of these kits, and the best one that I can find is the Yakiman kit, the one right at the very bottom. You can search by typing in Yakiman, Y-A-K-I-M-A-N, to find that if you wish. That is the one that I would go for. Now, I'm going to do all of the drum tracks on that kit, but you might decide that you want to change them. It's also worth saying that I'm going to put every single different bit of a drum kit on a separate track so that later we can edit them a bit more precisely, which means that you don't have to keep the Yakiman kit on all of these parts, apart from one, and I'll show you which that is. You might decide that you want different sounds, so it's entirely up to you. So I'm going to drag Yakiman kit over to our MIDI track. That's going to appear. And now I have got a MIDI keyboard in front of me, and you can hear that when I press different keys to get different parts of the drum kit. The bit that I was hunting for is this sound. Okay, this kit has three very particular tom sounds. Sounds a bit like the EastEnders theme tune, which are really useful to us. So that's what I'm going to do. But I have already said that I'm going to do this in separate chunks. So let's get started. The first track that we're going to use, we're going to rename, and we're going to call it the kick. Okay, now the kick is unbelievably simple in the intro. It only plays one note. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick in a region between 17 and 21. I'm going to go insert MIDI clip. There we go. And now the editor, you can see that the editor is labeled up with the different parts of the Yakiman kit. So if I press this button down here, I'm pressing the low C on my keyboard, you see that this one is lighting up to show me that that is the kick drum. If I go up to the black note just above it, that's lighting up, and I can go through. So it's really easy to see on the grid which part of the kit you are playing. Now, all you need to do for this intro section, on the very first part of the grid, provided you've started at bar 17, is stick in a kick. That is all you need to do for that entire section. Okay, all you need to do for that entire section. You then need to go over to bar 21, and you're going to add in a 1 bar region. Okay, so I'm going to go empty MIDI clip. There we go. And for this one, this is only a bar long. You're going to put 1 on the first part, which is also a kick, and then you're going to skip over this, which is the second beat, and go to the next grey box. So you've got a kick on 1 and 3. So 1, 2, 3, 4. It's going to do the kick on 1 and 3. Then if you loop that out, you will get them all in the right places. So in the intro, that just sounds like this. Just get 1 kick on the start. Okay, that's all you get. And then if you move on to here, you get this. Okay, you've got a really simple kick drum part. Now, I absolutely could put the rest of the drum part on that same track, but I'm not going to, because as I've already said, we want to be able to edit the different parts of the kit individually with effects and that kind of thing. So I'm going to set up another track. going to go insert MIDI track and go through exactly the same thing again. Again, I'm going to use Yakiman Kit. Drag it over. Okay, still got that same sound. Going to rename this. Going to call this one the Snare. Okay, where's rename? There it is. Snare. Lovely. I quite like that colour that's already picked. It's looking quite nice. So I'm going to add a region into our intro section. So that's between 17 and 21. Going to go insert empty MIDI clip. Now this one, we've already got our kick at the start. All that happens then, it's a bit strange. It's a bit of a weird drum pattern, but I've listened to it many times and I know it's right. We need a snare on every other main beat. Okay, so we've got 1 being our kick, then 2, 3, 4, and they go on for a while. Okay, so I'm going to put in the snare 707, which is the D key on your keyboard. Not that it really matters if you want to help to find it out. So we've got our kick here. It would be there. So I'm going to add in 1 here, 1 here, 1 here. And I can never remember if there's one at the end. I'm going to put 1 in, but I'm not sure if that's right. Hang on. So we get... Oh, I've missed 1. That's why I've got the wrong number. Hang on a tick. All this, make sure you've got the draw key switched on. Make sure you've got B, otherwise you won't be able to click into the grid. Really important. Yeah, I've put them too far apart. Sorry, excuse me a second. Let me just add them back in. I might have too many here. That's it. We don't want that last one. Okay, so I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 snares. So it goes kick, snare, 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 snare. Right, that should give us the right number. I think I only counted 5 snares there, didn't I? Yeah, should go kick, snare, 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 snare. And that will give us what we're after. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, that's the intro section. That actually is the intro section complete apart from the fill, which we're going to put in a minute. Like I said, it's really straightforward. Going to put another 1 bar region in here. Insert MIDI, empty MIDI cells. Now, do you remember how we had kick on 1 and 3? We're going to put snare on 2 and 4. And then loop that out. And that gives us this. Okay, we're almost there. We're going to add in another track. So I'm going to go insert MIDI track. Oh, again, it's matching up the blues quite nicely. Going to scroll to the bottom. Again, going to use the Yakiman Kit. You don't have to, but I know it works. So I'm going to put it in. And what we want now is we want a hi-hat sound, a closed hi-hat sound. So I'm going to use the one which is based on an F sharp. And I only need to put in our 1 bar region at bar, what is that? Bar 21. And for this one, we're going to put a hi-hat on basically every other box of the grid. And the one that I'm going to use is hi-hat closed sharp Yakiman, that one there. So I'm going to go every other box. I mean, you could put in every box if you wanted to. You get what's known as a 16 beat, but I'm not going to. Okay, and then drag that out. And you should get this. Now that is probably the most basic of basic drum patterns. It's known as a backbeat. All it is kick on 1, snare on 2, and a hi-hat playing quavers or 8th notes. And it just goes right the way to the end. That's all we're going to do. Now that gives us this from the intro section. It sounds all right. Listen to it. But then there's this big silence before the drums come back in with their full backbeat. And if you know Faded, if you listen to Faded, you will hear that there's a little drum fill in that silence, and we need to put it in. Definitely for demonstrating attention to detail, which is in that merit marking criterion. So really, really important. So our 4th drum track that we're going to add, I'm going to go insert MIDI drum track. Oh, it's gone yellow. I don't like that. I'd like a sort of matching greeny colour. Oh, that's nasty. Hang on, let me find one I like. There we go. So sort of keeping the green theme for the midis. Okay, that only happens in the 6/4 bar. Right, it only happens in the 6/4. So I'm going to grab hold of the 6/4 bar, which is bar 20, and I'm going to add in a empty MIDI clip. Okay, I'm going to make sure that it's Yakiman kit, the same as before. And when you've got that and you've double clicked into your region, okay, if you scroll up a little bit, where are they? Why are the notes not showing up red? Don't know. Because I've got the wrong track armed again. There we go. There we go. So you can see these three give Tom Vintage Yakiman, Tom Acoustic Yakiman 1, and Tom Acoustic Yakiman 2. Now I'm going to play this in to show you how it goes without recording it, because it's really important. You don't need to keyboard this, you don't. It goes like this. Okay, that is a really important drum fill that we need to add in. But luckily, it's really quite simple to do. So we need to make sure that we're at the end of our 6/4 bar. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yes, and we're going to do, the first one is up here, Tom Vintage Yakiman, and it's these two boxes at the end of the dark grey grid. Then the next one is these two here, and then the third one is these two here. So you basically get like a little sort of stepping down section. And look very carefully here at where I've put them, because if they're early or they're late, they won't work. Let me just double check I've got them in the right place. So here's our intro section. Snare, 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 snare. Then there's a rest. That's it. Okay, so let me show you that again on the MIDI editor. Okay, so I've just got bar 20 filled with one loop. Okay, sorry, filled with one region. And then yours should look like this. It's a 6-beat bar, which has got, it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 beats in it. So you're going the second half of the 5th beat, and then the first half and the second half of the 6th beat. Should look something like you've got on the screen at the moment. As with all these videos, if you need to turn up the resolution so you can see clearly what I'm doing, then do. Right. And that is the faded drum part. That is it. We've now got faded complete. Should you have a listen? Nice piano intro. Needs some reverb. A good chance for us to use an effect later. Here comes the voice. Probably going to clean that up with a bit of effect as well. Maybe some EQ. We'll get to it. Here come the synths, Alberti bass. We've definitely got some effect to apply to that upper synth line. It's too loud, it's sticking out. Here come the drums. Gap. Here's our drum fill. And then into our backbeat. Good, I'm really happy with that. We've got an accurate version of faded, using a lot of different sequencing technique. Of course, what we need to do now, ladies and gentlemen, is take a screenshot and write about what we've just done. Now, you could have done this individually as you went through. It's not essential to do so, but you need to be explaining all the time as to all of the steps that you have done. So in my presentation, I'm going to duplicate, as I have done previously. We're only up to screenshot 13, but we've been making sure that we're really detailed as we go along. So what's been happening in screenshot 13? I just need to move my keyboard out of the way so I can type on my actual keyboard. Okay, in this screenshot, I have added the drum parts. I decided to do this as multiple drum tracks so that I could alter the tracks sounds. Hang on, should be possessive. Alter the tracks sounds individually and also apply different effects to different parts of the drums when I get to that point. There we go. I needed 4 drum tracks to do this. I labelled them as kick, snare. Did I actually relabel them? I'm not sure I did. I didn't. I should have done. Let's go rename. This one should have been called Hi-Hat. And this one should have been called Toms. My fault completely. I would change the screenshot, but I actually don't think anyone's going to notice. Snare, hi-hat, and toms. I used the same sound on all of the tracks, which is the Yakiban drum sound. I picked this one because it has the best tom sound to match the original. Okay, now as I've said, you might want to use Yakiban on all of them, but please use Yakiban on the toms. Okay, do what you want on the others, but in order to really create that East Endery, slightly 80s electronic drum sound that he has in Faded, please use the Yakiman sound. I didn't find any other suitable toms on any of the other tracks, and I spent a long time looking. It will be worth at this point, I think, having an extra screenshot of the drum editor, and I'm going to do that on just the toms. So I'm going to go screenshot with the drum editor open. I'm going to duplicate this, take out that, put that in, call this screenshot 14. Okay, and then I'm going to describe how I did the drums. I did all of the drums using the draw/pencil tool and clicking in. All of those are technical terms. Okay, I've always called it the pencil tool because that's what it's known as in Logic, and it's what is listed on your exam spec. But in Ableton, they call it the draw tool, and clicking in is definitely on the exam spec. To do this, I can't type. To do this, I created empty regions, again, technical term, on the tracks, and then I clicked the different drum sounds into the timing grid, which again is technical terminology. So all the time I'm trying to really deeply explain what I'm doing, and then click the different drum sounds into the timing grid. There is a vertical grid in the editor that shows where the different parts of the kit are located, which makes it really easy to program drums in Ableton. In fact, I found it's the best thing Ableton does. Unbelievably easy to make decent drum parts in Ableton. Really, really simple. I thought of something else I was going to say then, and I started talking about something else, and I can't remember what I was going to say. But it couldn't have been that important. There is a vertical grid in the edge that shows where different parts of the kit are located, which makes it really easy to program drums in Ableton. Nope, can't remember. Now, if you have decided to use different sounds, you would obviously need to phrase yours slightly differently. You don't need to talk yet about the effects, they are coming later. But the good news is, ladies and gentlemen, we have a well written up version and a nicely made project. Okay, this sounds a good deal like Faded. Don't get me wrong, it's not a perfect copy. But then again, it didn't have Alan Walker's massive studio production experience behind it. He's pretty good at what he does. Okay, and we've ended up with a nice comprehensive project which definitely shows attention to detail and musicality, the two things that we are looking for distinction. This is the kind of level you're going to need to be working at in order to get a distinction. So I shall see you in the next episode, which, as I said, is not inputting. It's now just effects, and we will start adding effects in the next time I see you. See you in, what will that be? Episode 5.